My name is Gustavo Nazareno. I'm from Três Pontas, the south of Minas Gerais, and I am an artist. My studio is located in Vila Mariana, which is a neighborhood in São Paulo, in the south of São Paulo. It's very active during the day, but you won't hear a lot of noise in the night, which is kind of how I like. I have a very organized routine, and I can come from my studio walking. And here is a house from the 50s where we just did a reform. My work is based on the pantheon of Orixás inside of the Yoruba and Afro-Latin religions such as Candomblé, Santeria, Voodoo. And I write fables based on my faith in them. I usually develop my work thinking on a moment in my life or something that I want to do, and sometimes there's not a painting on it. It's just the story, and sometimes it starts with a painting and the story comes after. My love for art started with religion because I grew up in a city that was very Catholic. I saw images of saints, and every Catholic Latin house there's like a big painting of Jesus on the wall, and my grandmother used to pray, and I have a lot of respect for that image. And for me it was something interesting because I was like, how someone has a power to create something that was so deep in terms of making people kneel in front of them and pray for them and kind of transport them into something they couldn't even explain, but just that iconography had that power to create this respect. The Renaissance and the Baroque and all of those movements, they really inspired me. The neoclassics and Mannerism, classic European art were big references for me. But then later on in my life, as I was developing my identity, I guess, I discovered fashion. Alexander McQueen and the photographer Irving Penn. Then later on, I came into a big fight with all those references because then I started developing my political and social sense, and I could see there wasn't a lot of diversity into those places. I couldn't see myself there as a Black creator. I was kind of lost and out of place, but then I started looking for my own, and I discovered Linetti Adam Boate, Carrie James Marshall, Adam Douglas, and I started discovering about Black Brazilian art. I got to São Paulo in 2018. My aunt had this intuition that was sent by a Preta Velha, which is a deity from Umbanda in Brazil, and that she needed to bring me to São Paulo at the time. And she told me that something really good was going to happen, but she didn't know exactly what. She brought me to her terreiro, where the ceremonies take place, and the priest, he made an offer for me that in exchange of a studio and art supplies, I would paint the male Orixás. At the first attempt, it didn't happen. Actually, in the second one, I made it. I kind of made the painting of my life. It lays off my references there, like everything that I loved and wished I could make, it is there. So that's how basically I started with painting and never stopped. Bara is a series of charcoal powder on paper. And that series, the material happened for another interesting story, because I remember that was 2019, in the beginning, no, the end of 2018, and I I wanted to make an offering for Eshu in order to have some more prosperity, because I was basically going through having nothing to eat and having problems with money. I didn't have money basically, and I was living in a very expensive city. And I just had that, and I was like, I'm going to use this to create a portrait for Eshu, offer him, and see what happens in my life. In order that it happened a career. It turned into 400 drawings that basically got me around the world. It started my career, it started everything, and that was my first body of work. I usually do my painting as offerings. I see my painting as that, as offerings. So everything is very personal. This exhibition, it takes me back to 2018, the story of how I got to São Paulo and how I started painting. Not just for the lack of representation inside of painting on Afro-Latin religions and African religions in general, but also to talk about the syncretism of the Orixás and how the Afro religions kind of shaped Latin America in general, because everything is very syncretic. I feel like I am very syncretic, my painting is very syncretic, and taking references from things that I love, such as Renaissance art and fashion photography, and creating movement for them is something universal that I felt like I was ready to accomplish with this exhibition. In 2020, I was invited for a residency with a curator called Danny Dunson. He's a curator from Chicago that basically discovered my work. And we did a show in Accra, in Ghana, in the end of the year, that year. And when I got to Accra, the gallerist kind of invited me to a meeting where he invited me to have my first solo show with him. That was in 2021. It was like 4 months after that show. I basically had no time to paint, but I needed somehow to see something or to have at least a view of what I wanted to paint. But it kind of had a direction of my dream show. I think all the artist does. And I saw this interesting scene where this curator, he was dressing up for the opening of this show in Accra. There was 2 designers from Accra that were basically dressing him up. I was in the plane coming back to Brazil, and I came with that scene in my mind, and I wanted to turn that into a painting. I started writing about it, about like a routine for Eshu to get ready for a ceremony. That was the first time that I actually wrote. We don't have like a reading down or like a Bible for Afro-Latin religions. We don't have a lot of that. Everything we have is due to ancestrality, what is taught, basically. So I get a lot of inspiration on that, especially to develop their colors, to develop their stories. Without my Orixás, I wouldn't be nothing. And somehow I believe that's my religion. It's where my religion lays. It's on my painting, my writing, and my life. My practices is directly in respect for them.